amid a critical moment for global diplomacy. On day 2 of the 80th UN General Assembly, leaders urged swift action on global challenges. Ukraine's Zelenskyy has called for real military aid against Russia, highlighting drones and AI in warfare. Now, Syria's President Ahmed al-Sharaa has demanded sanctions be fully lifted, while Iran's President Pezeshkian has denied nuclear ambitions and pledged support against Israeli aggression. As day 3 began, the focus shifted to climate change, development, and regional peace. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is set to address the assembly via video after being denied a U.S. visa. Meanwhile, leaders from Somalia, Ghana, Kuwait, the Philippines, and Italy are expected to highlight their national and regional concerns. Now, for this discussion, we are joined by Thomas Porteous. He's a correspondent joining us live from New York. Thank you very much, Tom, for joining us. Now, what more can you tell us about what's happening in UNGA now?
Well, yes, Asuma, the third day has officially kicked off with Somalia kicking off today's session of the general debate. However, much anticipated is, of course, Mahmoud Abbas, who will be speaking remotely to the General Assembly, the first time this has happened in history, where a head of state has been refused a visa to speak here in New York City at the United Nations. Now, if you look behind me, you can see the diplomats flooding into the entrance of the United Nations. We've seen the likes of Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish president, the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte come in here to take part in the general debate. Pedro Sanchez, in particular, has been vocal in his words in support of the state of Palestine, and we're sure that he will be in that hall today, showing his support for the cause. However, another significant member going to be there in presence is Yemen, which follows Mahmoud Abbas's statements. They'll be, of course, addressing ongoing efforts and the civil war that is currently occurring with Houthi rebels, Iran-backed Houthi rebels, very much still in play inside Yemen, and of course Israeli aggression going back and forth there. Furthermore, this afternoon, once things kick off after a lunch break, we have mainly African countries, but of course, what the United Nations is created for humanitarian issues, and we can't leave Haiti out of this. Port-au-Prince, the Haitian capital, and Haiti as a whole has been rife with gang violence, and that is sure to bring up huge debate here at the United Nations. There has been a plethora of headlines and a call from this body for international actors to intervene in this situation in Haiti. And so we'll hear their leader speak here today. And of course, what can't go amiss is the European Council President, Antonio Costa, who is set to speak today, heading the European Union speech. He will push forward, of course, European security, which has been heightened due to President Donald Trump's push amidst his NATO concerns, and of course, Russia's aggression coming in from the eastern flank. And so we will, of course, bring you all those updates here live from New York as soon as we get them.
And Thomas, do you see any protests around UNGA, and what more are you seeing on the ground?
So no, not as of yet. We did see that happen yesterday. However, it is very early in the morning, and Mahmoud Abbas is not yet ready to speak for a couple of hours as of yet. But we are going to be expecting them. However, tomorrow is going to be that is expected. We're seeing that all over social media. Pro-Palestinian pages are advocating that they are going to march to the UN to bring Netanyahu to justice, as they say. Netanyahu, of course, has an arrest warrant against him from a court set up by this organization, the ICC. And so we are certainly expecting some protests here. We have been seeing Palestinian flags dotted around the UNGA. However, expecting some big protests coming up soon.
And Thomas, how's the feeling? How's the mood like? Even though yesterday we saw that President Trump and several other leaders criticized UN's legitimacy and its role, how are people feeling over there, and how, if any media is covering this topic?
Well, of course, at the end of the day, this is in the United States underneath a Trump government. And Donald Trump got up behind that podium and said, what is the point in this organization? I myself have stopped 7 wars, in his words. Of course, many people will argue that he, in fact, has not. However, many people do, in fact, argue that the United Nations was set up to create, to make peace. And in 2025, we have seen from as small as skirmishes, from small border skirmishes from the likes of Cambodia and Thailand to huge ongoing conflicts like Russia and Ukraine, and of course the tragedy in Hamas, Gaza, the Hamas-Israel war. These are at the forefront of everyone's mind there. And of course, you can't forget the climate crisis. I mean, this is an issue that's being raised by a number of countries, and yet many, and we are also seeing a pattern here of right-wing governments slamming this.
Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. Now we know that President of